passionate instigator and dynamic problem solver, Dr. Kevin Ross Emery, the host of the Dr. Kevin Radio Show, will be taking you outside the box, behind the curtain, and identifying the load of BS we are fed every day. And now, Dr. Kevin.
Hello, and welcome to the Dr. Kevin Show, where we challenge everything and everyone. We are on a new platform. I've been off for the last 2 or 3 weeks while they've been doing the changeover. I've been changing over into airplanes and buses and all sorts of things. I've been changing over into different residencies. I've been changing over because I've just been changing over. And hopefully, all of you have been making some kind of change as well, because it gets really boring if you stay the same old way day in and day out. So welcome back.
I change my clothes every day.
You change your clothes every day. And that other voice that you're hearing is none other than, as you know, for those of you, my regular listeners, this is Thirst Quenching Thursday, the first Thursday of every month. We have none other than Matt Connarton with us. Matt Connarton from IPM Nation, from Matt Connarton Unleashed, from Matt Connarton Tied Up. We have all of those Matts joining us now. Matt, how are you?
Matt Connarton Tied Up is not actually debuted yet. We're still shopping that around, trying to find a network for it, and so far no takers, surprisingly.
Really? Now that's really surprising, because I would have thought that you could have got that on snm.gen.
Well, we're hoping for maybe Cinemax.
Cinemax, okay. Matt Connarton Tied Up. So, welcome. So, Matt, it's been a month, and we were doing this in a completely different way last time. We're experiencing something new this time, and so why don't you start by sharing with me and the listeners here on the Dr. Kevin Show what's new with you, what's up. But before we do that, I'm giving you a chance to think about that question, because I know that you have to process.
Yes.
You guys can come to facebook.com/MyDrKevin. That's facebook.com/MyDrKevin. At the very top, you will see a notation about Thirst Quenching Thursday. And that is the place where, if you want to be part of the conversation, if you want to ask questions, leave comments that you would like to have on air, that you do it there, and then we will share. Now there are some things I won't share, but I share most things. I'm pretty flexible, pretty liberal.
Sharing is sharing.
We share. Hey, So, how are you? Where are you? What's up these days, Matt? Fill us in.
Well, busy as ever. I can tell you one thing, if I can do a quick plug for my show tonight. I have a very big guest on Matt Connarton Unleashed. I recorded the interview earlier with Dolly Kyle, who just wrote a book called Hillary the Other Woman, all about the Clintons, and very, very interesting. So that will be out tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern on IPM Nation 2. But been doing a lot of expanding. We just added. We didn't really do a big announcement about it. Gave it kind of a soft launch because we're still adding audio to it. But the Dr. Kevin radio channel now on IPM Nation.
The Dr. Kevin? Oh my God! Who is this Dr. Kevin? And why would you give a whole channel with audio? I mean, does he have that big a mouth?
Did what? Say that one part again?
I said, who is this Dr. Kevin? Does he have that big a mouth?
Oh, yes, he does. He's got hours and hours of audio to share. Hours and hours and hours. Literally millions of hours of audio. And video. And we're going to have a Dr. Kevin and Friends TV channel as well.
So there's some exciting news. So we get to not only hear the dulcet tones of this loud mouth, we get to see it actually flapping in action. Oh, exciting.
Yes.
Well, some of the shows that you're going to have on Dr. Kevin and Friends Matt Connarton is one of those guys we're talking about, isn't he?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, there's been a lot of audio over the years that we're both on. I've interviewed you several times, going back, wow, nearly a decade. If you think about it, which is incredible. Because I think we met in, what, 2007?
I think so. I think it was somewhere around there. I'm not sure. I met you 2000 and it might have been 2006. It would have been before that because I moved back here in 2006. Yeah, and was living in Pittsfield, taking care of my father before he died.
Yeah.
So it would have been 2006, 2007. But you came on my radar screen pretty close to when I came back. You were on the Norm show.
Correct. Yeah, so that's where we met. Yeah.
Yeah. But I had been on the Norm show. Now, what's it called? Norm and Friends now? It's called
Norm and Friends, yeah. Yeah, back then it was called Norm's Psychic World, but then he changed it to Norm and Friends because, as you know, I mean, sometimes he'll go an entire show without doing a single reading. We're talking about anything psychic, so you kind of, decide to change the title.
Sometimes psychic, sometimes psychotic. It all just kind of depends, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah. So that's 10 years.
Wow.
10 years, and I had already been doing radio before I met you.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. So, that was. So anyways, yeah. So we have the Dr. Kevin and Friends video channel, which will be online soon, and we'll announce that. If people want to tune into the Dr. Kevin radio channel, do we have a link that we could post on the thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll post it, and of course, you can go to IPMNation.com/Dr. Kevin Radio Channel, or you can just go to IPMNation and click the Listen tab, and you will see the Dr. Kevin Radio Channel as one of your options, and it will take you right to it. And there's not much there yet. We're going to add some graphics and whatnot, and some links and cool stuff, but I can tell you at this moment there is already quite a bit of audio on there. Streaming right now.
Yeah. And there it is. And IPM Nation, listen. Oh, and the Dr. Kevin channel. Oh, love it.
Good stuff, huh?
There you go. There's an interview from 8/13/11. So 5 years ago. 5 years ago, something is...
Almost exactly 5 years ago, wow.
Yeah, I know. That was a little strange. So I have put that link there. If people want to find it, they can go to facebook.com and /MyDrKevin, and they can find the link. And in that link, they can go and listen to IPMNation.com, Dr. Kevin channel. So I got some questions for you. So who is this Dolly, and where does her information come from that you're interviewing? Because, I have to tell you, I've started to just opt out. I've started to even hide some of my own friends' commentary because people are just making stuff up. They're just hurling accusations all over the place. They can't back up. They are putting stuff out. I mean, it's just like crazy. I mean, I feel like Facebook has become the National Enquirer of politics. And, unless I'm seeing an actual audio clip or I've got somebody that can back it up with big guns of proof, it's all speculation to me. So where does this woman's information come from? I mean,
she actually, she has a pretty unique perspective. She actually grew up with Bill Clinton when they met. She was 11 and he was 12, and they met on a golf course in Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Okay.
They call him.
Okay.
I was going to say they call him the man from Hope, but he's really from Hot Springs.
Hey, well, there's some hope in that Hot Springs.
Yeah.
So she grew up. I mean, she's known Bill Clinton since she was a teenager, and she's been part of their friend circle ever since.
Well, she had a long association with the Clintons up until I think 1992. She had an affair with Bill Clinton off and on for many years. And she, finally it came to what it always comes to, what seems to be the pattern with the Clintons, where someone is whatever woman comes forward and says this or that, ends up being threatened and intimidated, and that's all part of her story.
Oh, and we're coming to our first break, and we'll be right back. Talk about Matt Connarton's affair with Bill Clinton.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
There is no death, only a change of worlds. Chief Seattle. Deborah Livingston is an award-winning intuitive psychic medium whose international services include mediumship, spiritual assessment, animal communication, and spiritual mentoring. She is a published author and a trained shaman. Deborah provides evidential messages from spirit and departed loved ones. Learn more at deblivemedium.com. That's DEBLIV medium.com.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Buffett. How would you like to meet an endangered manatee? You can by joining Save the Manatee Club's Adopt the Manatee program. You can't take them home, but you can get to know your new manatee friend through the photo, biography, and information the club sends to you. And you can read updates on your manatee in the club newsletter. More importantly, your contribution goes to programs that are working to save manatees from extinction. It's easy to help. Call 1-800-432-JOIN.
Hello, and welcome back to the Dr. Kevin Show, where we challenge everything and everyone. Today is Thirst Quenching Thursday, the first Thursday of the month, where I have Matt Connarton from IPM Nation and Matt Connarton Unleashed, and hopefully someday Matt Connarton Tied Up. Matt, you there?
I am still here, Matt.
Good. Is my voice sounding any better? My producer came in and said I was sounding a little distant. Can you tell? Do I sound better?
Sounds.
Okay. So I'm going to just try to project, because I'm so soft-spoken, quiet, and shy. This will be hard for me.
Yeah, it's hard to draw you out.
Well, so anyways, so Matt, so she had an affair with Bill Clinton, It got to the point when she went to expose the affair, and she got threatened, and
she's written a book.
And she's written a book.
Yeah.
So, it's really interesting. So, I'm gonna start a roundabout here in a way, which is I'm gonna start with the fact of, do you think it is or is not relevant that it's Melinda Trump? I can't remember because he changed his wife often enough. I can't keep track of the first names.
Oh, Melania Trump.
Yeah, somebody like that. That she recently had a picture of her basically, practically nude, with a little woman-on-woman action kind of thing going, that had come out before she married Trump. Do you think that this has any place in politics? Does it make any difference?
I don't think it matters. I mean, there's so much about Trump and the way he conducted himself in his campaign that I had forgotten about the Melania thing. I mean, all the normal rules don't apply when it comes to Trump anyway, apparently. I thought the way he reacted to it and kind of responded to it, I thought was good. And I don't have much nice to say about Trump. But I will say that. I mean, I thought he handled it well and basically said, what's the problem? It's she's a beautiful woman and it's something to be celebrated and so what? So, but everything, I mean, this whole election cycle is so strange and just, it's hard to know what to make of any of it.
It is a little bit Twilight Zone, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think my point is, and I've struggled with this right along, which is, I don't really care. I don't care. I don't care if Bill Clinton had an affair. I don't care about Monica Lewinsky. I don't really care if Hillary is sleeping with her secretary. I don't really care. This country is bollocks beyond belief, and I just want somebody in charge that's going to make a difference. And maybe that will be Hillary, maybe that won't be Hillary. But all the rest of it, whether Melania was naked or whether Bill was sleeping with somebody, it does not either qualify or disqualify who's going to be in charge of the nuclear codes, who's going to be our representative to the world, and who is going to make any kind of substantive change in the White House. Because all of that's irrelevant. All of that is smokescreen.
I think, here's my problem. So if it were just that, I would agree. But the problem is, around the Clintons, there seems to be this pattern, and I believe these women. I don't see why they would lie, and I don't see, I don't see what they have to gain from it. There seems to be a pattern of intimidation and harassment that goes on when someone comes forward. And the stories of these women, like Juanita Broderick, for example, she was on the Opperman Report, another show we carry on IPM Nation. And her story, she accuses Bill Clinton of raping her. Now, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. She can't prove that it happened. But I'll tell you this, I mean, her story has been consistent throughout the decades now. And I find her believable. And there's quite a few women who claim to either have had an affair. Apparently, according to Dolly, Bill Clinton is a self-admitted sex addict. And, it's one thing if he and Hillary have an open marriage and it's just a marriage of convenience, which is what a lot of people think, that's one thing. But if he is a serial adulterer, then, and she's just kind of looks the other way and helps them cover it up. I think that speaks on a deeper level to the character of these people, and it would tend to indicate that they're a bit untrustworthy. I think because of JFK, because JFK is so revered, but JFK also we know was a womanizer. I think people kind of excuse that, and they say, well, look at JFK, he was a womanizer, but he was such a great president, so obviously that doesn't count. That particular character flaw is not one to be concerned about. But I think it is when there's intimidation and threats made against these women after the fact, and there seems to be a pattern of that with the Clintons.
Yeah, and again, I struggle, and I read it, and I posted an interesting article about, first of all, I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon on either side. I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon that says, all of these poor women, they were all victims. When a woman cries rape, it's never, ever anything but rape. There's never anything other but rape. No, there are rapists, and they deserve to be punished. And the swimmer guy that got 6 months, and was off for, good behavior. I mean, that was a travesty. There was a witnessed rape, and he admitted to it, and basically, him being a star child of and in university and everything, completely outweighed the fact that he's negatively impacted this woman's life. When somebody says, well, what's in it for them to tell the story? Well, they get on this report. They get to write a book. They make money off of it. They go on the talk circuit. So it's not like you can't say there's nothing in it for them to say it, because there is something in it for them to say it, which doesn't say it's not true, but never tell me there's nothing in it for them. There's always something in it when you get to up your popularity, you get to get sympathy, you get to get, you get to get some kind of support. You get, so, and there have been many cases where after the fact, maybe it wasn't exactly how they said it was happened, but the damage is already done. And so part of it is I struggle with all of this, and I struggle with it from both sides. Mm-hmm. And, we kind of go back to the, do you vote for Hillary because you don't want Trump? If you end up voting for Johnson, are you just putting Trump in office? What are our choices here? But I do know that the woman has done some good works. She's done some good recorded works. She has spoken out, and she's made a lot of strong and powerful statements, and she has done many positive things as well. And some of it is mudslinging. Some of it will stick, but not all of it will stick. And I hear things repeated which absolutely there's proof of were lies, were made up by people that didn't like women who were going for power. And there is that part of it. And we can't shortchange the power of a nasty rumor and the fact that, I was horrified that, when you look at the comparison between some of the things she said and done, that male counterparts have done 3 to 5 times worse, and it's no big deal. But for her, she should go to prison for the same thing in a much lesser offense. And so, you know what? I'm not trying to play the woman card, but I think I think you're naive. I think anybody's naive if they don't think that some of the shit that goes on around about Hillary Clinton is because she's a woman looking for power, because that absolutely is part of it.
I don't doubt that that's part of it, but I also don't think that excuses the, you look at the email scandal, she lied about that over and over again. And, and then we find out the truth. And, whether or not she should be prosecuted, I personally think she should. But regardless, there's no denying that she lied repeatedly along the way, just kind of probably, I assume, hoping the whole thing would just go away and blow over. And then we find out, no, she definitely lied. And I think she's untrustworthy. I don't trust everyone who says things about her necessarily either, because I think you're right. Obviously, some of that is just Hillary hatred. I would say I've never met a Republican who dislikes Hillary Clinton. I've only met Republicans who have an intense, seething loathing and hatred for Hillary Clinton. So, yeah, some of it, I'm sure, is not true, and it's overblown and whatnot. But unfortunately, I think we know enough to know that she is, I think, fundamentally dishonest. So I don't trust either of them, Hillary or Trump, and that's why I'm voting for Gary Johnson. One of the reasons.
Yeah, and I struggle, and I know we're coming up to the bottom of the hour, but you know it's a very interesting time, and I don't know if we talked about this on the last show or not, but recently on my TV show, Web of Light, we had an astrologer on, Dorothy Morgan, New Hampshire astrologer.
Oh, yeah.
Morgan. Yeah, you know Dorothy. And she did the chart for the solar return to the U.S. And there's our sound, and we'll right back.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know, I tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
Hi, this is Bill Maher. I can find humor in almost anything, but one thing I never laugh about is cruelty to animals. If you don't get the joke either, write People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, 501 Front Street, Norfolk, Virginia, 23510.
Hello, and welcome back to the Dr. Kevin Show, where we challenge everything and everyone. Matt, are you still there, or did I drive you off?
No, I am here.
Good. So, you know, what Dorothy was saying, we were talking about she did the solar return chart for the U.S. And we, it's been 240 years. And, a lot of astrology falls in cycles that add up to 12. We are actually have a very similar chart to the chart we had at the time of the Revolutionary War.
Really?
Yeah. This country has a lot of the same things that had in place when it was born. And it's coming back. And when she said that, I was, we were taping the show, and I said, well, I'm going to start using the hashtag no taxation without representation, because clearly the American people are not really represented in Washington anymore. We pay the taxes, but the people with the pull are the people that, get the corporations and all these other people, and what they get to do is they get all of the benefit, and we pick up all of the price tag. And the people in Washington walk away with all the money in their pockets.
Right. Yeah, well, that's how it's been it's certainly not a new thing. But I call it, I even coined the term. I need to look up again who it was who came up with it, who first used it, but I call it the corporatocracy. That's what we really live in. We don't, we toil under the illusion that these people represent us, but they don't. They represent whoever pays them. It's as simple as that, really. Just, follow the money.
So, so we're going to move away, we're going to move away a little bit from the politics side of this because we want to challenge everything and everyone. So why are so many of our other institutions getting so much power, and are things shifting? And my example of this is, here we have Eversource. Eversource decides it can go in and clear cut anything it wants, whenever it wants, for whatever excuse. You can't challenge them. You can't talk to them. They won't even talk to you about it. They cut down trees that may be completely unnecessary. They've destroyed the value of some people's property by ruining their views. In case maybe we're just taking a precautionary measure, you have no right. They redid street names a couple of years back ago, and there were 30 people at a town hall meeting that said, hey, we don't want our street name changed. And they were like, well, this is what this hearing's about. But it's like, it wasn't a hearing, it was a telling. Because 30 people voted against having the street name changed and said, yeah, well, too bad, we have to do it anyway. So, but we wanted to, we kind of wanted to make you feel like you got heard. But it didn't make any difference. Is this getting worse? Are we creating these little mini things like Eversource who can't be touched, have no accountability for their actions? These town hall meetings that are useless because the federal government has said so, or, all of this stuff. Is it always been this bad? Is it getting worse? What do you think?
Well, it's a difficult thing to know because we live in an era that, is truly the information age because of the internet and because it is so easy now to find things out, to research things. So I don't know. I don't know if that's getting worse. I suspect it's just always been that way. But now, because of the internet and because it's so much easier to exchange information and access information, I think now people are more aware of these kinds of things. And, someone who, a perfect example, someone who might not have been aware of the issue that you just raised, now, because of the internet, because of technology, now they know about it. So it's impossible to know, to quantify that, whether it gets worse or whether anything really gets worse. Jen and I were talking recently about, the police shootings and the violence and whatnot. And has that gotten worse, or is it just a matter of now the information is right in their faces with the internet and everyone's got, the ability to take video with their phones and everything? Is it just that everything is more out in the light now? They say sunlight's the best disinfectant. So it's hard to know if any of this stuff gets worse or if it just becomes more evident.
Has man become more complacent? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I tend to be an optimist about that one. It's easy to feel at times that people have become more complacent, but the truth is, I think that there's always been a level of complacency in our culture, and there's always been things that distract us. I mean, of course, now, you see people walking around with their phones, and they're looking down at their phones. Either they're playing Pokemon Go, or they're texting, or they're looking at social media and not paying attention to the world around them. But, I remember when I was a kid having to be practically dragged to the dinner table because I was too occupied with playing video games on my little Atari 800, So I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, it's sometimes it's discouraging when you realize that a lot of people, particularly young people, don't even know who the vice president is and things like that. But on the other hand, you also see record numbers of people participating in our democracy, whether it's for the ill, in my personal opinion, because they're coming out to vote for Trump, or for the good, although I'm not a Bernie Sanders supporter, but I like a lot of things about Bernie, and you saw him really capture the imaginations of a lot of young people. Or in the past, Ron Paul really capturing the imaginations of young people as more of a libertarian. So I don't know. I don't know if we're becoming more complacent. Again, it's one of those things that are difficult. That's difficult to quantify because the political circumstances are always changing, and the stimuli that is available to us is always changing. You know, maybe Pokemon Go is making people complacent because people are paying more attention to that than the world around them. Or maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's bringing people together by getting people outside and into the world who wouldn't otherwise be out in the world interacting in some way. So it's very difficult to know. So I'm going to be the optimist and say, no, people are not becoming more complacent. I took the long road to get there, but that's my answer. But I really don't know.
Well, you know, I guess it depends on the time frame you want to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Were people more involved with the village and the town and the city and maybe even the state before World War II, when maybe there were less distractions, less things that seemed to mesmerize us and hypnotize us? Or
that's a good point.
More involved with survival because survival was more of an issue back then. What were you going to say, Matt?
Yeah, no, I think you raised a good point there. Yeah, I mean, people probably were more involved in their communities, certainly. And now, now as you mentioned it, I lived in Concord, New Hampshire for a long time, and I was not involved directly in the community there at all. You know, I was more involved here in Manchester where I live now. But you can live someplace a long time now and not be involved in the community at all, whereas in the time frame that you're referencing, people probably generally were very involved. So, yeah, that's a good point.
You know, mass media, mass hypnosis. Video games, vacuousness. And I'm not saying that I don't get that, Jeff plays video games, my partner. And,
Sure.
And sometimes if 2 or 3 hours pass, I kind of go, okay, I know you're getting something out of it, but, we only have so much time together, and I don't really want to have our time together be me watching you play video games.
It becomes psychologically addictive, you play a video game and at the end of it it's no different than somebody saying just one more fix, just one more game. I'm just going to play one more game, It's very addictive.
Yeah. And I think that the more, I ran across, it was so funny. I was visiting somebody, and Star Trek The Next Generation had started, and I used to love Star Trek The Next Generation.
Me too.
And I sat down to watch it, and it was an episode where Riker had gone to this planet, and he had been infected with this game that once you put some headpiece on, and the game happened in your visual cortex, in your brain. And he brought it onto the ship, and he contaminated everybody else, and it was Wesley and Data that saved the day, because it was actually messing with your stuff, and it was so that an enemy could take the ship over and be in complete control.
Yes.
Yeah, and I thought, this is fascinating, because that show was, 20 years ago? And I was really looking at the fact of how self-hypnotic these games could be, where you stepped out of life.
Mm-hmm.
And, I look at it, and I think that one of the things we have to consider here is the fact that with an increased feeling of powerlessness, and I think that with each generation, there has been some feeling a greater feeling on a low level of powerlessness. I can't make a difference. My vote doesn't count. Why should I bother? I was just at Staples today getting, they did a beautiful job on making some mugs for me. I'm going to put that plug right there in for them. The one here in Newington, New Hampshire. Go see Seth. He always does right by me. And beautiful. But, I go in there and, there's this girl and she's, she can vote the first time in her life and she's not going to bother.
Yeah.
And, and I said, that's fine. I said, but just remember, when you don't vote, you give up your right to complain. I almost think there should be something when people are like on Facebook or a place like that and they're sharing everything about our government, that you have to show evidence you voted, and if you don't, all your comments get deleted. They don't count if you don't participate in the process.
The problem is, though, there... Oh, I hear the music.
And we'll be right back for the last segment of our tip. That's everyone. And
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio. Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Evolution is where sexuality and spirituality meets. Join me, clinical sexologist Martha Tara Lee, on Eros Evolution on Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Hi, this is Carly Simon for LifeBeat. The music industry fights AIDS. The AIDS crisis isn't over. There have been amazing scientific breakthroughs, but people are still dying, and your local AIDS organization needs your help more now than ever. Volunteer and make a difference.
Hello, and welcome back to the last segment of the Dr. Kevin Show, where we challenge everything and everyone. We were talking about the apathetic. We were talking about the effects of video games. We were talking about the effect of mass hypnosis. Mass media. Is there a difference? We have hypnotist Matt Connarton on, who is known as Matt from Matt Connarton Unleashed, and known as Matt from Matt IPM Nation. He's known as Matt, the sidekick of Jen. So, Matt the hypnotist, mass hypnosis, mass media, are they the same thing?
Yeah, but, it's funny though. So, you can't, obviously, and you know this, you can't hypnotize anyone against their will. They have to be a willing participant. And I think with mass media, you have a lot of willing participants because you have a lot of media that really is useful for confirmation bias. So if you're, for example, if you're a conservative, you're more than willing to be sort of influenced by what you see and hear on conservative talk radio or Fox News or whatever. If you're a liberal, the same thing. If you're looking at, if you're watching MSNBC or some liberal blog or website, like the Daily Kos is a popular one with liberals. So it's the correlation being, once you're a willing participant in the hypnosis, it's very easy for these people to sort of manipulate you by appealing to whatever it is that you're willing to go along with. And then, of course, that's a great way to sell your advertising. And these cable networks have proven that, whether it's Fox on the right or MSNBC on the left, by using, by appealing to one's own thirst for confirmation bias. You know, I'm just watching this channel because I want to be told whatever it is I already believe. I just want it reinforced for me because that makes me feel good, and then I don't have to think. That's a very effective way to kind of lull people into then buying whatever it is you're selling them, whether it's a product, whether it's more patriotism, more enthusiasm for the military-industrial complex, whatever it is that they're selling you. So that there is a correlation there, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that, again, as people are feeling more powerless, as they feel like they can't make a difference, that it shows out in 2 or 3 different ways. I think it can show out in increased violence. In another way, I think it can show up in increased apathy. And certainly, there is a power to be able to go onto a video game and kill things or get to another level or have something that, you know, if you're in a job that doesn't satisfy you, if you're in a marriage that doesn't satisfy you, if you're in a life that doesn't satisfy you, if, you know, you feel like I get to either go in debt for my whole life or end up doing a schlocky job, which do I choose? Do I go to a schlocky college or do I choose a schlocky job and, you know, end up not making what I'm worth? Or, I mean, I think that there are things, more things than ever, because we have more people than ever, and we do have the greatest income disparity that we've had in recorded time.
True. Yeah.
That, you know, we all have to feel powerful somewhere. And I might be on a video game. I might be on Pokemon Go. I was introduced to Pokemon Go last week in Phoenix.
Oh, what did you think? Yeah.
Well, I noticed 2 things. One was, yeah, it gets people out walking. They're not seeing the sunset. They're not seeing the beauty around them. They're not necessarily connecting into any soul-quenching relationship with nature or their surrounding, but they're walking. So, yeah, kudos. There's at least a little health benefit there. And it is definitely almost kind of like, hey, here's self-hypnotic. I just spent 45 minutes of my life, which there was nothing better to do with than run around and try to see if I can grab imaginary animals and hatch them in eggs and do stuff.
Gotta catch them all.
Yeah, I was walking around with somebody that's around my age and somebody who's around 20. And, you know, this whole thing. And they stopped and actually had conversations with other people doing Pokemon Go who probably never would have talked to. And I said, you know, there is a potential community building thing here where it didn't make any difference what race or belief system or orientation or anything. They shared Pokemon Go. And I said, well, at least they're showing something that's not violent.
Yeah, very true. Very true. So that's a positive. Yep.
So I kind of went, well, I can see where it has some positives, but I also still think, you know, what, and you know, I always look at where would you invest the time if you weren't doing that? Could you be doing something to make your life a better life? Could you be doing something to make the world a better place? I mean, I know we all need to relax, and I'm an avid reader at times. I can read 8, 10, 12 books in a month. You know.
I don't know though. You see, even with Pokemon Go though, I don't know if that causes the people who end up investing a lot of time into it. I don't know if it's causing them necessarily to not be spending that time doing something constructive because maybe they would be doing something else, that's not constructive. I mean, if you ever look at, and I know you do not own a television, correct?
Oh, when I moved into, and when Jeff and I moved in together, I inherited a television. Now after, 12 years or 14 years, I now have one, but it doesn't have cable attached.
Right. Yeah, and like we don't watch television here. If we want to watch something, we'll watch it on the computer, but we don't spend much time in front of a TV. But there's a lot of people do, and there's some of the statistics, I'm sure you've seen them, they're staggering. Something like the average American watches between something like 5 and 7 hours of television a day. So there's a lot of people who just waste a lot of time. I had a roommate, named Pete, and, he won't care that I say this because it's not like he's listening to this, but, he had a regular sort of 9-to-5 job, and, I remember when he came to live with me, he was shocked that I wasn't interested in watching TV because for him, he'd come home from work every day, he'd make himself something to eat, and then the rest of his day was on the couch in front of the TV. And, and then he'd get up and do it all over again the next day. And that was, to him, that's what life was supposed to be. You go to work for 8 hours a day, you come home, and then you just flip around and watch TV. And that's what a lot of Americans do. So, there's always been that element, too. There's always been a pretty large swath of society that just wastes massive amount of time in front of a television. The statistics on that is staggering. I don't know how people have the time in such a busy world to watch that much TV, but they do.
No, they do. And, and that's what I'm talking about is I do think it's different than it was 50 years ago. I think it was different than it was 60 years ago. And I think that there, and I just said there is, I think, a significant layer of Americans that are arrogant and entitled and think they're too good to do stuff. And
definitely, yeah, I agree with you there.
And then they sit around and they complain when jobs go overseas, and they complain when they can't find work, or they complain because they're not being provided everything with a silver spoon, so they can sit on that couch. And
where I see a lot of that show up is in the music industry. Because I have an axiom, I've been saying it for probably 15 years. In the music industry, everyone wants to be a rock star, but only as long as it's easy. As soon as they have to kind of, put in the work, they're not interested.
Yep, absolutely. So, Matt, the music's going to be coming on at any moment now. So, what's anything up and exciting coming up for you? Any events you're doing? Anything? You got the interview tonight. Where do people go for that interview?
Yes, tonight, Matt Connarton Unleashed at 11 p.m. Eastern on IPM Nation 2. Just go to IPMNation.com/live2, and you can hear my interview with Dolly Kyle, author of Hillary, the Other Woman. And it's a really, really interesting conversation. We recorded it this morning because she's been on a whirlwind media tour. She's been doing all the big shows. She was on Hannity the other day. She was on Alex Jones. She was at the Republican convention. I don't know if you saw this, Dr. Kevin. I shared out the videos online. She was there when the big fracas broke out between the Young Turks and Alex Jones and his cohort, Roger Stone. And if you haven't seen that, by the way, it's quite a sight. But, so this is a big deal. So that's tonight, 11 p.m. Eastern on IPM Nation. And I hope everyone checks it out.
What was the big fracas? Where was this? Was this the Republican or the Democratic convention you're talking about?
At the Republican convention in the media room, the Young Turks were there. They had their little set. And while they were live on the air broadcasting, Alex Jones and Roger Stone crashed the set. It seemed friendly at first, but that's Alex Jones. That's part of his shtick, and it got pretty ugly pretty quick. I recommend it. It's interesting viewing.
Okay. The Young Turks of the Republican Convention. I'll have to Google it. Thank you, Matt, and we'll talk in a month here on the Dr. Kevin Show.
Thank you.